Hi, second graders. Welcome back to your TV classroom. Today is Thursday, March 4th. It's Thursday. It's also a very special day here at the TV classroom. Do you know why, friends?
No, why?
It's Mr. Kevin's birthday today. Everybody say happy birthday, Mr. Kevin. Happy birthday, Mr. Kevin.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome so much. We would not be able to do what we do here at the TV classroom without Mr. Kevin. He's the one that makes the magic happen. So thank you, Mr. Kevin. Happy birthday. Let's check in with our zones before we get learning today.
Okay, zones. Coming right up.
How are you feeling today, second graders? What's your body doing? Sad, happy, excited, or worried, or frustrated, or are you angry?
Mrs. Wally, how do you feel today?
I'm in the greenish yellow zone.
Okay, greenish yellow.
Yeah.
Why?
There's some decisions we're making, and I'm not sure about them. So I'm feeling a little anxious about it. It's not a bad kind of anxious. It's just kind of that land of the unknown. I don't like being, some people really enjoy being in the land of unknown. They feel like they have lots of options, and I don't enjoy being in the land of unknown. So I'm but I'm really okay, and I'm ready to learn, and I'm fine. But I want to just recognize that I'm having a little bit of that feeling right now. How are you doing today, Mr. Kevin?
Oh, I'm in the green zone.
Oh, I'm
solidly in the green zone.
Oh, that's so good. I'm so glad. Friends at home or on your computer, or maybe you're watching in your classroom, or maybe at your daycare. You could be lots of places watching. What zone are you in today? Share with someone around you, and then don't forget, we need to ask them how they're feeling as well to show empathy and understanding and kindness. Okay, let's go ahead and do a what's missing problem because it's Thursday today. Take a look at our first problem. Now, before we try to figure out that box, we need to look at this and figure out, what do we know? What is it saying? What are we trying to figure out? Take a look. What do you see? I see one side of I'm going to go to a highlighter because that's easier. This side is subtraction because I see a subtraction sign. And I see this side is a subtraction because I see the subtraction sign. And I know that both sides are going to have to equal the same thing because I see the equal sign. So go ahead, let's figure it out. What is 60 minus 15? 60 minus 15. Well, 60 minus 10 is 50, and minus 5 more is 45. Okay, how do I make 50 equal 45? Yeah, I just subtract 5. So now, both sides of my equation are the same, which means they are equal, which makes this equation true. Let's go to the next one. 90 minus something equals 53 minus 8. What should we do first, friends? Oh, I know. Solve the side that has all the parts there. Okay, what's 53 minus 8? Well, if I have 8, I know I have 3 and 5. So 53 minus 3 is 50. Minus 5 is 45 again. How do I make 90? What do I take away from 90 to make it be 45? Oh, yes, 45, because 45 plus 45 is 90. So my missing part is 45. Now both sides are 45, and our equation is true. Something plus 50 equals 120 minus 10. Well, 120 minus 10 is 110. So I'm going to have to make this other thing be something to make it 110. What plus 50 is 110? Well, 50 plus 50 is 110. plus 10 more. 50 plus 50 is 100. Excuse my brain is going too fast, friends. 50 plus 50 is 100. Plus 10 is 110. So 50 and 10 is, it's 60. 60 plus 50 is also 110. Or I might look at this and go, 120 minus 10. I wonder if I have 50 and I take 50 away from 120, that's gonna be too confusing. I think the way we did it's a better way. Okay, 130 minus 10 equals 110 plus something. Well, what is 130 minus 10? 120. So what's gonna go in the part we don't know? 120 equals 110 plus something. Plus 10. All right, friends, we are gonna move on to our learning target. Today, we are learning to regroup as a strategy to subtract 3-digit numbers. Now, the things you need to have with you today as you're learning is your whiteboard or a piece of paper, something to write with. If you have base 10 blocks pictures or base 10 blocks, get those out. If not, you can draw them on your page. All right, we're gonna be learning about regrouping when subtracting. We've done it when we were adding. We started it yesterday and it was new. Let's see what we can learn today about using regrouping to subtract. Before we begin, let's warm up with our base 10 blocks. It says, use base 10 blocks to find each difference. So if you have them, get them out and use them. If you don't have them, that's okay. Draw a picture to solve. I'm gonna give us 2 minutes. Are you ready? Go ahead. Mr. Kevin, you can show my whiteboard.
Okay, I'm showing it.
Oh, perfect. I was looking up at my slide. All right. Go ahead. You solve. If you need some help, you can look up at me. I'm taking one of my 10s and regrouping because I have to take 7 away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I have to take away 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay, friends, let's take a look at our work. I'm gonna make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, that one came off. So I did it both ways. I used base 10 blocks for those who are using base 10 blocks, and then I did a picture as well. So I had 82 that I built, and I knew that I needed to take away 57. So I was trying to take away 7 ones, but I couldn't take 7 ones away from just 2 ones. So I traded a 10 for 10 ones. Then I was able to take away 7. And that left me with 4 ones and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 10s. And then I took away 5 of those 10s and I got an answer of 24. I had to regroup. I took a 10 and broke it apart into ones. Now let's look at the next problem. 71 minus 29 equals something. I drew 71 and then I needed to take away 29. So I went to take away 9 ones and I only had 1. So I regrouped to 10. You can see here in my drawing, and I made 10 ones. Then I was able to take away 9, and that left me with 2 ones. And then I moved to my tens place and I took away 2. So I took away 1, 2. This one was regrouped, so I don't get to count that one because it was not here anymore. So I took away 1, 2, and that left me with 42. Ta-da! That's how you solve it. Let's take a look at our work today on our PowerPoint. I'm going to reset my work area. You reset yours. Okay, are you ready? We're going to read a problem. As I'm reading, your first step is to listen and figure out what's going on here and how could I start representing that with some kind of model. And then we're going to ask the question and put that in our model, figure out what information we know and put it in our model, and then we're going to solve. Are you ready? So right now you're listening and you're being a detective. What's happening in this story? There are 450 campers at Camp Cody. One day, 218 campers do art projects. The rest do sports. How many campers do sports that day? What's happening in this story? Yeah, kids are at camp. Some are doing art, some are doing sports. Okay. Oh. And I read the rest are doing sports, which means I'm going to have 2 parts and a whole. How would we draw that in a model? Yeah, we can do a part-whole model, or we could do a number bond. So let's say this is all the campers. Some do art, some do sports. Okay, let's find our question and figure out which box we're going to put the question mark in. This box is art, this box is sports. Let's read. There are 450 campers at Camp Cody. One day, 218 campers do art projects. The rest do sports. How many campers do sports that day? What's the question we're trying to solve? How many campers do sports that day? So where's that question mark going to go? On sports. So now we know we're trying to figure out how many campers are doing sports. What information do we have to work with? There are 450 campers at Camp Cody. One day, 218 campers do art projects. The rest do sports. We know how many campers are at the camp. We have 450 total students at the camp. And how many of them do art? 218 do art. Let's put that in our model. You can draw this on your board if you want, or we're going to leave it up and it will be here. 400, whoops, I need my pen. 450 campers all together. 218 do art. Now remember, we're subtracting with regrouping. So what kind of equation do you think we need to do? Go ahead, solve this problem. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Go. Have we hit 1 minute, Mr. Kevin?
We have.
Okay, friends. Can you show my whiteboard, Mr. Kevin? So here's what I did. I took 450 and I subtracted 218. Here's my 218 that I subtracted, and here's what I had left. How does that match what you did? Take about 10 seconds to compare how you solved this problem to how I solved this problem. I got an answer of 232 because I did this. And I'll show you how to do that later. Okay, let's take a look at how they're going to tell us how they solved the problem, a different way to solve it. And I want you to compare how you solved it to the way they solved it. What was similar, what was different, and how does that make sense? It says you can make a quick drawing. Oh, take a look at that. They showed 450, just like I had 450 with my blocks. And then they took a 10 and regrouped it or traded it for 10 ones, which is what I did with my blocks. And then they took away the 218. We did it similarly. I just did it with actual hands-on tools. They did it with a picture. How does that match what you did? Maybe you used numbers. Maybe you did the picture. Maybe you used a number line. How can you see your regrouping if you did something other than drawing a picture? Oh, look, you can subtract hundreds, tens, and ones. So thinking about 218 as their values, right? So thinking about it as not 218, but 200, 10, and 8. So they start with 450, they subtract 200. Now they're at 250. So then they subtract 10. Now they're at, now they're at 240. And then we're at 240 and we have 8 left to subtract. We've done this one, we've done this one. And 240 minus 8, this is where that regrouping happens. You can't take 8 away from 0, but you can count backwards. And I know that 8 minus 10 is 2, so it's going to be 232. You have to regroup that. You have to use that 10 and subtract from it. Okay, let's look again. You could break apart the numbers. Did anyone do it this way? They said, well, 450 is 400 plus 50 plus 0. So then 218 is 200 plus 10 plus 8. Well, I can't take 8 from 0, so I'm going to regroup. Mr. Kevin, can you show my whiteboard really quick? I'm going to regroup by taking from the tens place, and now that's going to be 40 or 4 tens, and I'm going to give 10 ones over to the ones place. See how I did that here? This is 4 tens and 10 ones, just like they had 40 and 10. This is just the collapsed way to do it. So then they subtracted and they got 10 minus 8 is 2, 40 minus 10 is 30, and 400 minus 200 is 200. Exact same thing. That's so cool. Did you do it that way? If you did, awesome. Look at, picture it. Why did we need to regroup 110 as 10 ones? You can just show my whiteboard, Mr. Kevin. Okay. Why was it that I had to take one of my tens from 450, look, 400, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Why did I have to say, oh, that's not gonna work. I need to take this and have 10 ones instead. Why did I have to do that? What was that, Gus? Gus said, because Mrs. Wally, you had to take 8 away and you're not taking 8 10 sticks away. You need to take 8 of these little tiny 1 cubes and we're not allowed to cut these. That's correct. But I can't trade it for something that's equivalent or the same, just like the what's missing, how both sides have to be the same. I found something that was equivalent or the same to 110, which is 10 ones. They're the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're the same thing, but I can take 8 from this one. I can't take 8 off of this one. So I'm like, okay, well, they're the same, so I'm gonna trade them. I still have 450. Just one of my 10s is in ones. Now I can take 8 away and have 2 left over. And then I have to take away 1 from my 4 10s, right? Take one of them away, so bloop, and I get 3 10s left. So I took away, right here, I took away 218 and I have 232 left. So how many campers did sports, friends? 232. Okay. Awesome. It says, look at the first modelet. How is the way the problem is solved like the way shown in the second modelet? Let's look back at those. So how is this way similar to this way? Well, this way we're taking away the hundreds, the tens, and the ones. And we had to regroup here at the end, didn't we? And this way they took away the hundreds, the tens, and the ones, but they showed the regrouping, didn't they? So we can see that regrouping right here. We can see that they had to break apart a 10 into 10 ones. Okay, let's try another problem. Oh, we're out of time. We're gonna stop there. We're gonna try another problem next time in our next session. So I want you to practice this on your own. You're gonna do page 423 and 424 in your math workbook, okay? And I want you to practice trying this strategy. If you want to use drawing-based 10 blocks for all the strategies, go for it. If you wanna build with base 10 blocks for all the strategies, go for it. I love teaching regrouping, which is why I kind of lose track of time. Sorry, Mr. Kevin. Okay, friends.
Quite all right.
We're gonna be doing lots of this in the coming days. So if it's not making sense yet, it's okay. We're gonna work on it more tomorrow. So today we learned to regroup as a strategy, subtract 3 digits. We figured out what to do if I have 2 things, but I need to take away 7 of them. Why? I can just break apart a 10 and make 10 ones. Okay, we identified the value of each of the digits. We built or drew the starting number with place value blocks. We subtracted the part in our model or drawing using regrouping with 10 when we needed to, and we found solutions. Nice job today, friends. Now, Mr. Kevin, if they want to contact us here at the TV Classroom, what can they do?
Well, you can send me a birthday card at TV Classroom at tacoma.k12.wa.us.
You're so funny, Mr. Kevin.
Or, of course, we're via mail, TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405. Just kidding, kids.
It would be pretty special, though, if you got a birthday card in the mail. All right, friends, up next is Miss Oslin with ELA after your break. During your break, gather your ELA packet, your learning notebook, your pencil, and don't forget your learning buddy, and be ready to learn when she comes on the screen. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Hi kids, welcome to Food Fight. Now, I think we can all agree that ice cream is pretty delicious, but if you eat too much ice cream, it's not very healthy for your body. You know what is healthy? Fruit. In this exercise video, we will be working on building our cardiorespiratory endurance, which is our heart and our lungs. We're gonna try to avoid all the ice cream obstacles, and we're gonna try to grab as much fruit as we can. Make it to the end and grab the star fruit. Have fun! Food fight, let's go! Food fight! Food fight, come on! Food fight! All right, kids, in the final level, you need to grab as much fresh fruit as you can, dodge the mini ice cream trucks, dodge the ice cream, and make it to the star fruit. Good luck! Food fight! Nice job, everyone.
Hi, second graders. Welcome back from your break. Excellent job gathering your materials and being ready to learn with me today. I see many of you also remembered to grab the movie In My Mind that we started earlier this week, thinking about the story, The Ugly Duckling. If you didn't grab that, please make sure that you have it out and ready now. We have been learning all about the reading genre of fiction. Fiction stories come from our author and illustrator's imagination. And we've been learning that there's different types of fiction. We've really been focusing on traditional literature. You'll remember, traditional literature are stories from around the world. They're passed down from generation to generation, and they're often told orally, which means out loud. Nowadays, a lot of them are written down. Now, we have been specifically looking at traditional literature, the subgenre folk tales. Folk tales are stories that are passed down orally from one generation to the next by different cultural groups. And we used this graphic organizer, the movie In My Mind, to help us make a prediction about what we thought might happen at the end of The Ugly Duckling by Jerry Pinkney, or retold by Jerry Pinkney. I want you to take a moment to remind yourself what happened in the beginning and the middle of the story that we read, and what was your prediction about what would happen at the end. Take some think time. Now that you have that fresh in your brain, keep thinking about that as we finish the story, The Ugly Duckling, today. And think about, was my thinking right? Was my prediction correct about how this story would end? Or do I need to change my thinking? Today we're learning to recognize common elements in traditional folktales. We've been talking about these a lot. You'll remember there's literary language, which is language that lets us know this is a folktale. For example, it might start once a long time ago, once upon a time, a long, long time ago. There's also cultural language, or words specific to the part of the world where the story comes from. And folktales, like The Ugly Duckling, have common elements. And we already talked about that they've been around for many years. Because of the literary language, we know that. That's how we know, is that the author includes that literary language. We can also think about the characters or events that are in threes, use trickery to complete a quest or resolve a problem, and folktales usually have a happy ending. So think about, did you make a prediction that The Ugly Duckling would have a happy ending? Let's keep reading The Ugly Duckling and think about these elements and decide, does this folktale have those elements or does it not? The Ugly Duckling, adapted and illustrated by Jerry Pinkney. Now you'll remember at the beginning of the story, a mama duck had 5 small eggs in her nest and 1 large egg that she thought might be a turkey egg, but she took care of it just the same. And then the eggs started hatching first, the 5 little ducklings hatched, and the big egg hadn't hatched yet. And she was wondering, how long is this going to take? When finally it hatched, and it looked very different. The mother looked with surprise at his long neck and dull color. "That is a monstrous big duckling," she said to herself. None of the others looked like that. Can he be a turkey chick? Well, we shall soon find out, she thought, as he and the 5 furry little balls followed her to the water. Now, let's stop here and think about what you notice, what you see, what you believe, and you think. And we're going to make an inference, which means make a prediction or think about what that means. So it might say, I notice, this shows that the character will. So let me model this. I notice that the large duckling looks very different. This shows that it's probably not the same type of duck. The character is, maybe it's not a duck after all. However, Mama Duck is still going to take care of it. So practice using these sentence starters as you decide what you think is going to happen as we continue reading this story. Now, you'll remember the other animals on the farm weren't very nice to the ugly duckling either. They tried to chase it off. And this is where we left off. As time went by, there's some literary language right there, knowing us that time is going by. This scene is not happening at the same time as this scene. Our author gives us some language to let us know that. But as time went by, matters grew worse. The poor duckling was chased by all of them, even his brothers and sisters. The ducks bit at him, the hens pecked him, and the little girl who fed him kicked him aside. At last, he could bear it no longer, and one night, when the ducks and hens were still asleep, he stole away. Hey, there's some cultural language. He stole away. Now, I know what it means to steal something. That means like I stole something, I took something that wasn't mine. But that doesn't make sense here. I'm going to keep reading and see if the author is giving me a clue about what it means to have stolen away. One night, when the ducks and hens were still asleep, he stole away. By dawn, he had reached a grassy moor full of soft, marshy places. He's not in the same place that he was. To have stolen away must mean that he ran away. Oh, now our setting is changing. It was peaceful here, and the duckling wished that he might stay forever, away from everyone, until bang, bang. At the sound of the gun, whole flocks of wild geese flew up from the rushes. Sportsmen lay hidden around the marsh, and some even sat on the branches of trees that overhung the water. For a long few minutes, the firing continued. Okay, we're going to pause here and use our chart to help us make an inference. You can use I notice, I see, I believe, or I think to help you decide this shows that, this suggests, because, or this might mean that. Let's go back. I see the geese flapping their wings wildly. This suggests that they are going to leave this area. What is going to happen? I wonder if the ugly duckling is also going to take off. I just used this picture and my sentence starters to help me make an inference. That will help me better remember and understand what is happening in this story. Let's keep reading to see what happens. Luckily, the duckling could not fly, and he floundered along through the water till he could hide himself among some tall ferns. But hunting dogs were wandering about the swamp, splash, splash. And just at that moment, a frightful dog appeared beside him. His tongue hung right out of his mouth, and his eyes glared wickedly. The duckling grew cold with terror and tried to hide his head beneath his little wings. The dog opened his great chasm of a mouth close to the duckling, showed his sharp teeth, and then splash, went on without touching him. I am too ugly even for a dog to eat, the duckling thought. Well, that is a blessing, but I will never go near this pool again. Never. And so the duckling marched on bravely all day long. There's some literary language telling us that the story is moving along through the day until he reached a small cottage. The door had fallen off one hinge and hung so crookedly that he could creep into the house through the crack. Now we have some cultural language there, a small cottage. And thinking about what is a cottage, if we're not sure, we're going to read the next sentence and it's going to give us a hint. The door had fallen off one hinge, so a cottage is something that has a door, and hung so crookedly that he could creep into the house through the crack. So a cottage must be a house. He lay down there exhausted and spent the entire night in peace. Now in the cottage dwelt an old woman, her cat, and a hen, and the next morning the duckling awoke to the sight of all three looming over him. Oh, we're thinking about elements of folk tales. There's characters in three. We have an old woman, her cat, and a hen. Interesting. What on earth is that? Said the old woman, whose sight was not good. Can you lay eggs? Asked the hen. The trembling duckling shook his head. Can you ruffle your fur when you're angry or purr when you are pleased? Asked the cat. But the duckling had to admit that he could do nothing but swim. So it can neither lay eggs nor purr, said the hen. What should we do with it? Cried the cat. Oh, you are all talking nonsense, replied the old woman. We will let it stay for a bit, for I am sure we will see some eggs from the creature soon enough. The duckling remained for 3 weeks. There's some literary language. How much time has passed? 3 weeks. The duckling remained for 3 weeks, but he laid not a single egg. Before long, he grew restless, for he wanted more than anything to have a swim. What is the matter? Asked the hen. I am so longing to float on the water again, said the duckling. You can't imagine how delicious it is to feel it rushing over your head when you dive straight to the bottom. I don't think I would enjoy it, replied the hen doubtfully. And the cat agreed there was nothing she would hate so much. Have you ever seen a cat swimming? Yeah, I don't think they would enjoy it. Haven't you lived in this warm room and in our company long enough to have learned to do anything useful? Said the hen. I suppose not, said the duckling. I think I must go back into the wide world. The cat and the hen answered shortly, Very well then, go. And they turned their backs on him before he could even say goodbye. So the duckling left his friends. He was sad, but he could not help feeling a thrill of joy when he was out in the air and swimming in the water once more. Now the autumn came. There's another clue to let us know that time is moving on. Autumn is another word for the season, fall. Now the autumn came, the leaves in the woods turned yellow and brown, and the wind took hold of them, and they danced about. The clouds hung heavy with snow and hail. Then the snow began to fall, and the duckling's bewilderment, the river started to turn hard and slippery. One day he heard a sound of whirring wings, and up in the air he saw a flock of birds flying high. They were as bright as the snow that had fallen during the night, and their long necks were stretched southward. Oh, if only I could go with them! But what sort of companion could he be to those beautiful things? Every morning it grew colder and colder, and the duckling had to swim about on the water to keep it from freezing. At last, during one bitter night, his legs moved so slowly that the ice crept closer and closer. When the morning light broke, he was caught fast. Now there's another cultural word, caught fast. I'm thinking fast mean quickly, but he's caught in the ice. When the morning light broke, he was caught fast. Maybe he was caught quickly or all of a sudden. Let's pause here and think about how we can make an inference to figure out what's going to happen next. What do you notice, see, believe, or think? That's going to lead us to an inference. This shows that, this suggests, because, or this must mean that. And then it's going to give us a conclusion or a prediction. The character is or will, is going to happen, will happen, or the moral of the story is, Take some think time. Now, I'm having some conflicting thoughts here because the statement that I came up with is, I believe the ugly duckling is stuck in the ice because the picture shows me and the words are telling me that he's stuck in the ice. I'm thinking he's going to die. But we know that folktales often have a happy ending. So I wonder if somehow the ugly duckling is going to be able to get out of the ice. Let's keep reading to find out. By good fortune, now there's some cultural words. Good fortune means like luckily. By good fortune, a man was crossing the river and saw what had happened. He stamped the ice so hard that it broke, and then he picked up the duckling and tucked him under his sheepskin coat, where the little bird's frozen bones began to thaw. The man took the bird to his children, who gave him warm food to eat and put him in a box by the fire. They were kind children and wanted to play with him, but the poor duckling had never played in his life. He thought they wanted to tease him, and so he flew, terrified at the noise and confusion, right out the door. The rest of the winter was miserable. Now there's some more literary language telling us that time is moving on and we're going through winter, and we know that after winter is spring. The rest of the winter was miserable, and the duckling never had enough to eat. But finally the earth became softer and tender young plants poked through. When the duckling stood up one day, he raised his wings and stretched them in the warmth of the sun. He flapped them once and then again and again with a strength he had never felt before. Just in front of him, he saw a flock of the same beautiful birds he had seen in the sky so many months ago. One by one, he watched them step into the stream with feathers rustling and then float quietly upon the water as if they were part of it. I will follow them, thought the duckling. I would rather be killed by them than suffer any more cold and hunger and cruelty. And stretched out his wings, he lifted himself into the air to fly down to the water. Now, at this point in the story, several months have passed. You'll remember it started in the fall after he stole away, after he ran away, and now it's spring. Oh, how glorious it felt to be rushing through the air, wheeling first one way and then another. He had never thought flying could be like this. Wait a minute. I don't see the ugly duckling in this picture. I'm confused. What do you think? Use one of these sentence stems to help you figure out what is happening. Well, I noticed that these birds are flapping in the water. And I noticed that the words say how glorious it felt to be rushing through the air, wheeling first one way and then another. He had never thought flying could be like this. This might show that he's still flying and just not in the picture. I'll show you the picture. I think this means that the character will land on the water next. Okay, let's find out. When he reached the water, some of the younger birds swam out to meet him with cries of welcome, which the duckling hardly understood. "I don't know why I was hatched. I am the ugliest duckling ever to live," he said to them. He bowed his head and looked down into the water. Reflected in the still pool, he saw many graceful shapes with long necks and golden bills. Without thinking, he looked for his dull feathers and awkward skinny neck. But no such thing was there. Instead, he beheld beneath him a beautiful swan. He's looking at a swan. He can't see the duckling. This must mean he wasn't a duckling after all. He was a swan all along. "The new one is the best," said the children when they came down from the village nearby to feed the swans. "His feathers and his beak are the brightest of all." And when he heard that, the swan knew that it was worth having undergone all the suffering and loneliness that he had. Otherwise, he would never have known what it was to be really happy. The lilacs bent their boughs down to the water before him, and the bright sun was warm and cheering. He rustled his feathers and raised his slender neck aloft, saying with pure joy in his heart, "I never dreamed of such peace." Hey, I think that the character, the ugly duckling, which is actually a swan, was a swan all along and had to go through some really awful situations in order to grow. This must mean that the moral of the story is he would never have known what it was like to be happy if he wasn't unhappy at times. It's quite the moral to the story. Sometimes we have to have those uncomfortable feelings and situations in our life so that we can appreciate when things are good. Today, we learned to recognize common elements in traditional folk tales. We thought about literary and cultural language. We thought about characters of three. I didn't see any trickery in this book. I didn't notice any trickery, but there definitely was a happy ending. You're going to use what you notice about elements of folk tales and your inference sentence starters today during your independent reading, and you're going to write the inferences and the conclusions that you're drawing from the books that you're reading using these sentence frames. You can send that to us here at our TV classroom. Mr. Kevin, how can our second graders send us their inferences?
Sure, the second graders can ask an adult if they need some help to send an email, tvclassroom@tacoma.k12.wa.us. We'd really love to hear from you. Or you can mail it to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405. And we're right next to the park where sometimes we see swans.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Now is time for our affirmation. This is the time we get to build ourselves up and say positive things before we go off to do our independent work. And today, I want us all to remind ourselves that we are all beautiful people. I am a beautiful person, inside and out. Practice saying that with me. I am a beautiful person, inside and out. Excellent job today, second graders. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you back here next time in our TV classroom. Bye.
Hey kids, we want to see your work. Just send your pictures and your stories to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.